As a CEO and fashion authority, I know it's the details that truly matter. And when it comes to luxury, every stitch must be perfectly tailored. At Genesis, they've delivered on every element of the GV80. Two-line LED headlamps accentuate an exterior that exudes athletic elegance. Inside, discover an expansive cabin with ambient lighting. Take a close look at the Genesis GV80 and you'll see Luxe is in the details. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Zoe, and you're listening to Climbing in Heels. This show is all about celebrating extraordinary superwomen who will be sharing their incredible journeys to the top, all while staying glamorous. Today with me, I'm joined by my friend and badass entrepreneur, Kim Perell. She is truly the definition of a CEO, boss, founder, and all the things, all the amazing things that a badass boss woman and mother, I might add. Kim is one of my longtime friends who, no joke, co-founded and created 9 companies, all while raising 4 children. Not to mention, she's an investor in I think about 100 and something. I've lost track at this point. Together, we talk about her journey from growing up in Oregon to working at an internet startup and making the decision to start her own business with a $10,000 loan from her grandmother, which really changed her life. Kim truly has been and has had the most incredible career journey, and her positivity truly is contagious. I am so excited for you to hear her story. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things with you because you're full of things. You're full of ambition and things and ideas and have your hands in 20,000 different companies at this point. So
Oh my God, so many. It's like crazy. But you know what else I love about you, and I feel we really relate? I mean, and again, probably not for it's hard because we have such great support systems.
Yes, that is true. So I want to know, so you're from here. You're from California.
From Oregon.
You're from Oregon. And one of how many kids?
I have a twin sister and older brother.
Twin sister. So hence twins. Okay. So twin sister, older brother. Okay. And then were you always this? Did you come out like this? Were you just like fiery and like have to do a million things and have to be the best and like, or were you, there's no way you were quiet and timid? I know for a fact you were not a quiet, timid child.
Was not quiet and timid. No, I mean, I definitely pushed my sister out of the way at birth. So like, I definitely had like a leadership trait, but I was not,
Yes.
but I was not I was not. I was always different, to be honest. Like I kind of, and I can see it in my children now. Like I beat to my own drum, always,
Really?
never. Yeah. Like my sister was like the smart, athletic one. I was like, not.
See, I would see you as the smart, athletic one.
Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm the opposite. I'm not the smart, athletic one. I was like, no, not at all.
So were you like, were you a student? What was your vibe?
No, my vibe was just like, I just always had a different frequency. So my parents were entrepreneurs growing up. So I grew up in a house of entrepreneurs. And so I was very entrepreneurial, like honestly, from a very young age. And so that definitely like grounded me in a different mindset. But like when everyone else was playing soccer, I like walked on stilts. I rode a unicycle. I still can to this day. Like, I have skills that are like mad skills, like for a circus, like literally a circus.
Yes. Well, it's like your brain is wired different. You're just
my
like,
brain
your
is
brain's
wired different.
Which,
And I try to fit in, right? Like I'm like, oh, I'm normal. But then you're like at some point, and like I talk about it a lot, which is you just are like, I'm not the same. Like I'm different. I'm like not gonna play soccer.
Don't you think we live in such a good place in the world right now where like everybody just can live their truth a bit more, like certainly than when we were growing up, right? I mean,
oh my gosh, yes.
I feel like when I was growing up, you were like either the popular cool, you were studious and nerdy, or you were athletes. And that was sort of how it broke down,
Yeah, and I was probably like 0.25 of all of it. I'm like, I'm like a little bit, I'm like mediocre. I was mediocre at everything.
So when did you leave Oregon? Like, were you there until you went to college?
So I left Oregon when I went to college. Mm-hmm. But I think growing up, I was always hustling. Always. Like everyone else was in sports. I was trying to get a job like cleaning hotel rooms and they wouldn't let me do it because I was like too young. Like,
right.
So always trying to like find, then I worked at a pizza place and I worked at the Gap. I worked at North.
Now, is that because your parents wanted you to work or you wanted to work?
No, it's because I had nothing. They gave me basically, we weren't, we had no money.
Right,
so they're like,
right.
If you want to do something, you have to actually create the opportunity, find a way in order to be able to facilitate that. So,
but see, it's funny because for me, I worked because I wanted to work. That was the thing my parents kind of always remind me. It was sort of like, they were never like, you need to get a job in addition to school. I was like, I want to make my own money. I want to, because I think it stems from a desire to want to control your destiny a little more, right? And I think mine probably started like whenever I was old enough to work, 15, 16, whatever it was. And it was like, my parents were like, aren't we like, you have enough clothes, you have enough, and I was like, it's different. I like want to go, I want to work, I want to, and there was something, and I don't know why or where. And it's something I want to ask you is like, what do you think created that drive? Like, where did that come from? Was it your desire to kind of want to say like, this is mine, I own this, like I own this part of my life now, or like I feel like it's a control thing a bit.
I think one, I saw it growing up because my dad was always working. Yeah. And he take us to the job site. We never talked about sports at dinner. We talked about like his businesses, how they're going to almost go bankrupt, or and we were problem solving.
And it's terrifying.
It was just and I'm like, I never want to be in that position.
Right.
I never got anything. Like whether it was a comic book or it didn't matter. Like I had to find a way. I take my little red wagon and go door to door asking for cans, which you could drop at the local market for 10 cents.
Yep.
Like I was always coming up with like a way to make money because I didn't have any money. So like if I wanted to go horseback riding, I had to work at the barn. Like everything was about like, we didn't have any money. So it was just very much ingrained of I had like grand ambitions. Like I had things I wanted. So I had to go figure out how to get them.
Sure. Which is kind of how it should be.
Yeah, actually.
Like, right? I think that's sort of, it's like you want things in life and, how do you get them? Well, if my parents aren't going to buy them for me, I got to figure out how to do this, which I think makes you, I think that's like it's like a fire, it's like a fire in your time. I always say there's like a fire in your belly, right? Like there's this, but I love that fire. Right. And I think that's part of what's happening today is we're missing that fire in a lot of people. And I think for you, your fire to me is so obvious. It's just like, because you have enough money, you have enough success, but it's like, that's irrelevant. It's like, you're like, oh, no, I'm still going to work like I'm 16 or whatever, because you love it. Right.
I love it. Like at this point, I do it for the love of the game. Like it's so much fun. And like to create like an entrepreneur, to come up with an idea and bring it to life, there's nothing better than that.
No.
And again, it's hard, right? Like there is no overnight success.
No.
Like ever. But there's also the opportunity where, and it's so much fun to see that vision and then have it actually come out in a tangible way is wild.
Wow, it's like being a designer and then seeing your clothes on somebody that you don't know and you're not paying them to wear it. You're like, wait.
Yeah, they actually love it.
Wait, you bought that without someone telling you to. And I thought of that and then we created it. And then, it's similar. But for you, there's a lot about what you do. It's a very complex, it's as you said, it is not easy what you do. And, but what I want to know is, how'd you get to college? Did you work through college?
My dad actually paid for the college that I could choose to get into, but then I had to work for everything else. So I did the basic tuition.
Right.
And then I had 3 jobs in college. So I'm like a nut, right? So like I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and I'd drive to Merrill Lynch and I'd work like banker hours from like 6 to 12. Then I would drive downtown LA and work at a marketing company until like 6 p.m. Like it was, and then I'd have like an internship for women in business at like the school. Oh my God.
And you were going where? Pepperdine, right?
Pepperdine. So it was, to be honest, it was beautiful. But again, I had to work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's you've basically been working since you were like 10, 9.
Yes. You know what's interesting is basically since like I could possibly since I was a kid going with my parents and just doing what, on the job site.
Yeah.
But because I never saw it as work, because I don't think they saw it as work either.
Sure.
Like they're entrepreneurs. So it's fun.
Right.
Like it's fun. Someone's like, oh, are you having fun? I'm like, yeah, I'm having fun.
It's also really like a very happy day when you flip positions from working to live versus living to work, right? And you've clearly been on both sides, which I think is the most fascinating part. It's like you've always worked because you loved it, but it was also really you needed to work, right? So it was sort of like, if I want these things in life and I want this success, no one's handing this to me, right? Yeah. So like, I got to figure this shit out. And, so the ambition you've had, I think I'm going to argue since birth, but I think beyond that, many people get to a certain place where they go, okay, I've exited my 5th company. I'm good. I'm going to go travel or whatever. And for you, I think you've found a nice balance between enjoying your life, but also mentoring, supporting endless amounts of businesses and really like leading and public speaking. And like, you have your hands in how many companies roughly about now?
I'm an investor in probably 110, and I'm a founder in about 9.
Casual. So you're such a slacker, Kim.
But it's so exciting, right? Because it's like I was so blessed. My grandma made a bet on me to start my first company when no one else would give me $1. She gave me a $10,000 loan, and that changed her belief, and the capital changed my life.
So tell me about that. I want to hear about that. So you you graduated college, you were working all these jobs. You graduate college. Do you start then working for a company, or are you like, no, I'm starting my own company?
No, I was like, I do not. I had grown up seeing this roller coaster of entrepreneurship. Yeah. I'm like, I'm getting a stable job, a real stable one, like at a big company.
Yeah.
But then like Yahoo went public. Mm-hmm. The internet had just boomed, mm-hmm. right? And it was just like I was in the middle of it. So I went and I got a job at a .com, and it was like being on a rocket ship. It was so amazing. I was there when we raised the first $1 million. We raised 120 million. I called all my friends.
You were like, oh my God, this is grad school.
Yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire at like 23. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, it was so much money, so much fun. It was right in the height of the .com era. Yep. And it was just like there was money and like opportunity everywhere. Mm-hmm. Okay, but like it's kind of like now. And then
what happened?
The bubble burst, right? So and then the downturn hit.
And you're how old at this point? Probably like 25?
I was 22.
22. Jesus Christ. It was 23. Like when I was a fashion assistant, right? Okay.
Yeah. And so the .com bubble burst. All the companies went bankrupt. Like my company fired me. And then, first they asked me to lay off all my friends that I had come work for me. Like, I'm 23. I hired everyone. Said, we got an amazing opportunity. We'll all be millionaires. And then, like, a year later, literally had to fire every one of them. Like,
so I just want to pause there, because right there is your very first real life experience of being an entrepreneur, right? Because to me, the way I always explain being an entrepreneur or CEO or founder is the highs are the highest and the lows are the lowest. And when you are a 22, 23-year-old, and you have to fire somebody, especially someone that not only do you feel responsible for, but also like has become a friend, right? And a peer. And you have to actually fire them. It is absolutely, to me, the absolute hardest part about business. It's horrible.
It's actually still the hardest part.
It is. Like, it is. It doesn't get easier.
Like letting anyone go as in a company is so painful in my experience.
Yep.
Letting your friends go is like a whole nother level.
Awful. It's awful.
Yeah, because and honestly, some didn't talk to me for many, many, many years, sadly.
Even though today they're probably like, it had nothing to do with her. She had zero choice.
Yeah, I had no choice. And then I got fired too. So it's I was like, okay, we're in the same boat, right? It's not a good one, but at least we're together.
I also want to point out for our listeners that another part of that is anything that seems too good to be true always is. Just know that. I've never seen it. I've never seen it otherwise in anything too good to be true. It's just the way it works. It doesn't last. Not to be negative, but I like to keep things real, especially for people trying to do career pivots and, just growing their careers in general. It's like the easy way and the way that sounds absolutely perfect. It's flawed. It's flawed. It just is.
It's never. No. It was like my dream became my worst nightmare, like literally overnight. So then I'm broke. I'm unemployed. My friends won't talk to me.
And like, living where in New York City?
I'm living in LA.
You're living in LA.
I really just wanted to like go to bed and never, hope the thing kind of passed. And then it didn't, and then everyone's like, get a real job. And I'm going, I just had a real job.
Right.
120 million funding of a real job. Yep. And that didn't work out. So and that's when I kind of flipped the switch and was like, okay, maybe that's where the control comes back in, where I was like, okay, I can do this, and because I had so many great qualifications. I had no experience running a company. I had no experience, starting a company. I had no money, but I believed in the internet. And everyone's like, the internet's a fad. I mean, now we sit here and like, of course it's not a fad. Right, but at this point, literally Newsweek said the internet is a fad. Like everyone's going bankrupt. Go back home, people. This is it's kind of like, honestly, crypto or blockchain.
Yes. Like, and by the way, that confused me so much that I still never fully got that. So I'm actually not that upset that it's not here anymore. So
coming back, blockchain's here to stay.
Then you're going to have to give me a course. You're just going to have to train me on it. Honestly.
But that's the same thing, right?
Yes,
I think it just normalized.
It also comes back in a more digestible way, not like this.
Yes.
Yes,
and where there's actually companies built on utility and profitability and business principles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, instead of hype and there's nothing under the curtain. Yes. So I totally agree. Yes. So honestly, I thought, hey, I'm going to start my own company. Like, it couldn't be any worse than what it was. I don't want to get a real job because I just had one, didn't work out. All I need is some cash because it's an internet company.
Right, sure.
And so, but my track record wasn't great. My parents were like, get a real job, Kim.
You were also a child.
I was also, 23. Like, who's gonna fund a 23-year-old?
I mean, not that many people.
No,
grandma.
No, that's her grandma. Grandma came in.
Your grandma will always fund her 23-year-old grandchild.
Yes, right. My grandma. I can remember calling her, and she's like, "What's the internet?"
Yeah, please. My grandfather thought that he thought that I dressed people that literally were sick. Because he couldn't understand why someone would pay someone to dress them. So he thought I dressed people that physically could not dress themselves. And that's what a stylist was. But he would have given me money to start my own, for sure. Just because he's my grandparent. Right?
Yes, they believe. Honestly. Yeah, so she gave me the first $10,000. So $10,000.
On what idea? What was your idea?
On an internet advertising company.
Okay.
She had no idea. She's like, I don't know what it is. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm going to invest in you because I believe in you. And honestly, looking back, I was like, that changed my life.
As a CEO, fashion authority, and mom, I know it's the details that truly matter. And when it comes to luxury, every stitch must be perfectly tailored. That's why driving the sleek Genesis GV80 is such a luxurious experience. The SUV's exterior design, including 2-line LED headlamps, exudes athletic elegance. When you sit inside the expansive GV80 cabin, you can customize the ambient interior lighting to match your current mood, a feature that makes driving in LA a more relaxed and serene experience. So go ahead, take a close look at the Genesis GV80, and you'll see Luxe is in the details.
Like if she had never done that, I never would have started my company. I never would have sold it. And I never would have been able to invest in all these other individuals. And so it's like she created, that pay it forward. And honest, it's amazing.
Tell me about that first company, because that is your game changer.
Game changer. Yeah. So basically I was similar to what I was doing. I sold internet advertising, you go to Yahoo.com, you do a homepage takeover, you go search it, very old school, before Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and so I started a company and contacted advertisers and had them, place ads on the internet. And even they are like, Kim, should I put it on a billboard? I'm like, no, internet advertising, like it's much more efficient. But it was a challenge back then. Now everyone's like, oh, of course.
How long did you have that company before you sold it?
5 years.
Wow.
So yeah.
And then you sold
but
it.
it was
were you like
profitability? Yes. And then I sold it in 2008 to a European company that had just raised right before, again, the mortgage meltdown.
I remember.
I sold right before the cliff.
My
like
God.
Timing kind of like works in your favor, out of your favor. You start in a bad time.
It's everything. It's everything. So wait a minute. So, okay. So whole new life. And now you're like 30 and you are on top. You're feeling probably like on top of the world now. You're like, I've done that.
Gosh, I went to the ATM, and I can remember because I was in Vegas. And like I had more zeros than that comes out on that little ATM slip, I was like, oh my God. No, but it was one of those moments that you'll never forget,
of
right?
Course. And now were you married or were you married at this point or no?
Yeah. I was already married. Yeah, I got married when I was 26.
Okay, so you got married at 26. And then when did you become a mom?
Not till I was 37.
Okay, so you were on my train. You were like, you were same. Okay, so you were married for a while before, and every minute were people asking you when you're having babies?
Oh my gosh. Well, we met the first day of college. So like we'd already been married. Like we were so.
Same as us. Oh my God.
Yeah, so people first were asking like, hey, when are you going to get married?
Right. And then when you
people gave up after like 8 years.
Same.
So like, okay.
Same. People stopped asking. It was like, my mom just thought she's not becoming a grandmother for my children. She's just not. She just surrendered. And so much so that when my niece and nephew told her that I said, like, we're having a baby, they wrote it in a note, my niece and nephew, because they're much older. They thought my sister was pregnant. They thought my divorced single sister was pregnant. The likelihood that she was pregnant more than me that had been married happily for like 15 years. So yes, same. But okay, so I love that because so you really built your career. You started getting so then after, hold on, I need to backtrack. Sell your company. Do you like pat yourself on the back and go like, I'm taking a beat? Or do you go, okay, what's next?
I had an earn out. So actually I had to stay.
Got it. For how long? For like a couple years?
Income. So I stayed for actually another, then we ended up selling the company again.
Nice.
So I stayed till I sold the company. Yes. So I took over as CEO and then I stayed and we sold the Singapore Telecom with telecommunications for $235 million in 2014. So
yeah, guys, overnight, by the way.
There's no overnight.
There's no overnight. No. And you can't see Kim right now, but she's never not smiling. So like as she's telling these stories, even the hard ones, she's smiling still. I just want you to know that. She's like really pretty white teeth.
Well, only because now I can look back and I know how the story ended, right? Because when you're it,
that's fair.
So you have good hindsight, but right now, but when you're in it, you don't know what's going to happen.
But so in those moments, let me ask you this. Did you stay positive or were there those days where you're like, I suck and I'm not getting out of bed?
I mean, the day when I said that was basically when the company went bankrupt. Yeah. After that, I
felt like an asshole. Like you feel dumb, right?
I feel like, yes. You're like, I let everyone down. Yeah, I was wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like but I think once I sold and I had more confidence. I think confidence comes with experience.
That's what I tell everybody.
More experience I got, the more confident I became. So even today, I mean, fast forward, no matter what happens, I'm so confident that it will be okay.
Right. By the way, one way or another. That's
one way or another.
And I think that I weirdly think that's sort of the part with experience that you just go, okay, this is going to land one way or another. So let's play out the scenarios, right? It's like.
Yeah. And I've been, I've been broke. I've been bankrupt. I've been fired. I've been sued. I've been served. You name it. It happens all the time. Like literally. So okay, just throw one more at me.
By the way, you should put that on a t-shirt. It would sell really, really well for entrepreneurs. It would be beautiful.
To the list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been rejected. I've been doubted. I've been embarrassed. I've been laughed at. Like, you start keep naming them. Like, okay, yeah. Like,
this is going to be my new merch. I love this, Kim Perell.
Yeah. What about you? You know what I'm saying? And people, I'm sure listening right now are thinking, me too, because it happens.
Everybody. Do you know how many people have interviewed me and gone, yeah, Rachel, but you've done it all and you've like never made a mistake. And I'm literally like, you have absolutely no idea how many mistakes I've made. You may not know about them, but trust me when I tell you, I know about them. And like, everybody has them. And I think, but that's why I really do stand by, because, you know, a lot of people say, be the CEO, be the CEO, be the CEO. And I tell anyone who will listen, that is absolutely not true for many people. And I don't recommend it for everybody. It's really not for everybody. I have many friends who are like, oh, no. I am so clear that the highest I'm going is number 2 or number 3. They don't want the final decision. They don't want that. And it's carrying a lot. And I think to your point, all those things are bricks, right? They're all this. And in the moment, they're brutal.
They are.
But now you sit here and you look back and go like, nothing hasn't happened to me. Like,
nothing. But optimism is, like, I wrote about that today on like social media, to your point, like your attitude. Like, the hand I was dealt so many times is not the hand I wanted, but I played it anyway. So it's like your attitude towards what happens to you is how it will impact, you know, what happens in the end. And I think just reminding ourselves that you control your attitude. You can't control anything else. Yep. And the market, even right now, is so tough for entrepreneurs. Yeah, it is. But the thing you can't control is like yourself, your attitude, how you believe the situation. Even in the worst case scenarios, you have to have faith that in the end, it's going to be okay.
And also, I think to your point, I think it's sort of like something I've learned even in the last like 5 years is like you can't control what happens to you, but the only part you can control is how you react to it, right? Yeah. And how you deal with it. And I think to your point, you know, that was the first entrepreneurial lesson that my dad actually ever taught me. My dad's like a serial entrepreneur, CEO, founder, all the things. And the first thing he said to me was like, you know, it was sort of like, because even when I was like growing my styling career, and every job I would walk in like it was my first job. I was still like butterflies. I was still like, if I screw this up, I'm never working again. Like I treated every job like it was my last job. And my dad was like, I was like, Dad, I don't know when that's going to change. And he said, confidence comes with experience. It comes with time. And so really over time, I would like walk onto set just differently. Not like I got this, because I still was always like, there's so much margin for error. There's so many mistakes that could be made, but it's different. It's your psyche, right? It's a different, it's like an excitement over a fear, right? Or it's like a little bit like, I know how to resolve these problems should they arise, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And knowing you know what you don't know. Right. And that's actually kind of fun. Like, I actually know I don't know. So I'm fine with that. You know,
and that's okay.
Right? That's okay. When you're younger, though, I feel like you're supposed to think, and this, at least for myself, I thought I was supposed to know everything. So I didn't ask a lot of questions.
And we don't.
And I would have, right?
And we really don't. We really don't.
Yeah, I know nothing. No. So like now I'm not afraid to say, I have no idea. Do you guys know? Does anyone know? Yeah. Like, let's call someone that knows the answer. Like, instead of starting to try to figure it out ourselves.
Yes. It's so true. So now, okay, so tell me now. So after this, so then do you say like, okay, I'm going to start another company, or now you say, I want to help other people? Is this when you flip the switch to, I want to be an investor. I want to like now pay it forward?
So in 2008, when I first sold, I started investing.
Right.
And
just I was doing investing just for like fun, right?
Investing, because I felt that there was more people out there like myself that had great ideas. They just needed someone to take that first bet, especially in startups, where it's a startup stage. It's just you and your idea. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else. There's no track record. There's no money. There's no revenue or projections or profitability. It's like you and your idea. And I love the entrepreneur. So it was really about just giving back and, making bets on people that I believed in. And I believed in their missions and, I believed in them, and
you mentored, and right, you mentored.
Yeah, it was like the call. The call. I get the call. I'm like the fire call. If there's a fire, I'm your first call.
Right.
Like,
which I want to point out is very rare, because a lot of investors are very much like, okay, here's check, bye. Let me know how it goes. Update me every 6 months, right? Or, but I think, I always tell any young entrepreneur, like, strategic money is so much more valuable. It really is, because that's what you can't like pay enough for. No.
Other people, they say, other people's money. It's like you need other people's mentorship.
It's true.
That's where the big true value comes in. And like that ability to have people that have been there, done that, understand, can help you through those times that I went through. Right. I mean, luckily I had my parents who were entrepreneurs. Granted, they had no clue about the internet, but when things, got shaky, I could call them and they would at least give me the support and I think more than anything, support that like, okay, if it doesn't work out, or you're not alone, and here's some ideas.
Yep.
But not everyone has that.
No, and I actually think that's really the most valuable, because I think in those times where you do want to go into bed and hide and just like disappear, I think it's actually your parents or your family or your spouse or your best friend who, if you don't have that safe person to call who can actually help you through it, I think that it's 10x harder, honestly.
Oh, it's so hard. Yeah, I call it your people pillars. Like, who are your people pillars? Because you're going to have to find them. And like, those are gold, especially as an entrepreneur, or even just in a career, right? I mean, I worked corporate. So I sold to a $50 billion telecommunications company. And then I went to like a corporate life. I mean, I don't fit well I fit as an entrepreneur. And like, imagine me in like a very large telco in Asia.
I can't. I actually can't. No, I actually can't. So what happened?
Well, the most amazing thing happened is that it was run by a woman. And so I feel like for me,
she had a soul.
It was amazing. She had a soul, and she was so supportive, and it was just, I mean, you think, wow, like just a great mentor. And so it was an incredible experience. So I worked out of Singapore for 5 years, just commuting back and forth.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years.
And you were married.
And it's married. And then I had 4 kids during that 5 years. And then I eventually,
okay, Kim?
I swear. I had 4 kids.
Are you okay? Are you?
No, I already told you I'm not okay. I'm like, no. I'm done. In a good way, I think.
No, in a great way. Like, I always say, like, I don't, honestly, like, I think when we were growing up in school, it would be like, oh yeah, that person's really normal. And we were pretty clear what normal meant. I don't know what normal is. I actually think that, like, crazy to me, when I say crazy, it's actually a compliment. It's actually like, she cray. Like, she, but in the best possible way. I mean it like in a really good way. And I think, I don't know what is normal. And to me, normal's like, in my mind, normal just means like boring, stagnant. And so I think you kind of have to be that person to live the way you're living and have done what you've done and have 4 kids. And what many people may not realize, because they may not have any or have 1 or be thinking about it, having 4 is literally insane. When you work a lot, having 2, having 1, I mean, it's just being a working parent is just a challenge in and of itself. So,
oh my gosh. Yes. Trust me. We know. So like 4 under 5 was just too much, right?
That's when I met you. That's when I met you. And I thought you were lying to me. You said I just had twins. So I said, oh my God, is that your first? You were like, no, it's my 4th. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, you're what? Like, are you?
You remember that? Yes.
And then I got you the Chanel bag.
I know, which I love.
Which actually, I just fell in love.
Indonesia, and it's you don't make compliments like that.
Babe, I've had 2 of them for I think over 20 years, and they're still brand new.
Like, I love it.
They've been around the world. They go everywhere. They fit everything.
So good. I think of you all the time.
I hope so. I hope you look at a beautiful Chanel supermodel bag and think of me. That makes me happy.
I do. Yeah, it's so cute. It's the best. My best investment ever.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Not the other 120 companies she's invested
No,
in.
it's the bag. It's the bag, not the 120 companies. That bag is like paying off dividends. You have no idea. And happiness, right? It's all about the bag.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so what's your favorite part about what you do now? Because you have your hands in 120 companies. You are CEOing or helping CEOing 9 companies currently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I've co-founded 9. I'm currently actively, half of them sold. Half of them are still like good vintages, I would say. So it's fun to have like vintages of things that you've sold,
yes.
Or things that are still growing. And so my favorite thing, honestly, is helping other people bring their dreams to life. Yeah. Like, I love it. And in the hard times, not the good times. Yeah. Like I can't help you in the good time. You're good. You're good.
Right.
I'm back to the fire call. If there's a problem, I feel my talent is like I can help.
Thank God I have you on speed dial, Kim.
Yeah, you should call me if you got problems.
Now I know. Now I know who I'm calling. It's gonna be the worst thing you ever said.
Yes, no, but you should. I'm like the superpower of challenge, hardship, resilience. You'll be fine. Like, and just coming up with solutions, because I feel my entrepreneurial edge is very like I have a talent in improv, right? Just figuring it out, and so helping other people figure out some of those challenging times and and honestly, right now it's a challenging time out there. Oh, like it's hard. I don't care who you are. It's brutal, right?
It's brutal. And I'm watching so many people around me just losing jobs, people that can't get jobs, kids coming out of college that it's taking 6 months to a year to get a job. I mean, and out of like the best schools and the best this and the best that. And it's like, as you said, timing is everything. And I think, it's all very scary. And so I think the role that you've taken on is such an important one, because I mean, you should just be called Kim Perell, Pay It Forward. Yeah. That should be that should be your tag.
That's why I write books, because I really want to share all these learnings. I mean, similar to you, we've had so much experience, and it's like, how do you condense that and share that with other people so they can see themselves in your challenges? Like, oh, that happened. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it happens to me all the time.
Totally.
And people ask me, right?
Sometimes you just need to hear that from someone that isn't a parent, right? Or like a spouse, someone who is not biased, right? And someone who's actually lived it and lived through the pain and makes you feel like it's going to be okay.
Right.
And you do a lot of public speaking, right?
Yes, I do a lot of speaking.
I love that about you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I was just talking so I was speaking at the Latin America Fashion Summit and talking about rejection. Yeah. And how, honestly, I get rejected every day. People think I don't get rejected. I get rejected all the time. Like, people say no to me all the time, either raising money or they don't like my idea. They don't want a partner, like whatever. And that's so normal. Like, and if you're not getting rejected, right? Like, if you're not getting rejected, you're not trying hard enough, and you're not living up to your greatest potential. I don't think. I think you have to put yourself in places that are uncomfortable, that you might feel rejected. And that goes personal and professional. You have to do it.
I agree, but I think that's the scariest part.
That is so scary.
It's the scariest part, because it's like, it's funny, because I was talking to some entrepreneurs that were either like models or actors or dancers or whatever. And they're like, the greatest lesson of my life was being rejected. Like, because if you're not rejected, it doesn't push you further, right? It's like, you're like, I got this. Oh, I got that. It doesn't make you go harder, better, stronger, and try and figure out what you're doing wrong. I always say the best lesson any entrepreneur could ever learn about themselves and their business is go out on a fundraise.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get rejected like 2,000 times. I mean, seriously, right? Go to fundraise.
Go fundraise, and then they'll also tell you everything that's wrong with you and everything that's wrong with your business.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it hurts every time.
You want to just die.
It hurts every time. Like the every time there's a letter over the fence, it's like, you're too early, you're too late, you're too okay, like you don't have enough runway, you don't have profitability, blah blah blah. I mean, I've heard it all again. I get rejected all the time.
It's true. It's so true. It's so true.
You can't let that stop you, right? Like that's the point. Is even if you get rejected, you got to be strong enough to know and that you're still great. It just means someone else, like, don't let their opinion, challenge, be a happiness vampire. Like,
no, but I do think what it does help though is it makes you go inward to say, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? And that actually I find to be so helpful, right? Yeah. Like I actually find that because sometimes like I've approached something totally differently or pivoted because there's things outside of our world that we don't see. And it's like, oh, actually, so they're seeing XXX. So actually, I'm going to take this back and switch it a little bit, So
totally
that I think you have to take that, you have to take that and use it. And sometimes it's like game changing, I
think I probably could say 99% of the companies that I've invested in have pivoted. Yes. And people don't think it's okay to pivot. Pivot. If it's not working, change. You got to be agile. You have to. And I think I'm giving permission to people to pivot because I've pivoted so many times, right? Like where I started is never where I end up.
No. And don't also over project your life too, because that's a huge problem. Because I think we've seen even in the last 5, 7, 10 years, the industry changes every year pretty much, right? Because it's the speed of tech. So it's like, Kim's like, I love tech.
Everyone should be embracing technology, but also pivoting, right? Like if it doesn't work, you got to change what you're doing. And the faster you can change, the more successful you'll be. I think that's really key because you think your idea is great or you think your whatever it is great. And then when you actually get to market and it hits reality, I can guarantee it's probably not great. Yeah. Right? You 100%. Have to get out there though.
So Kim, what's next for you? Not that you ever need to do another thing again besides go on vacation, but if you were going to be Kim and do the next 25 things that you're doing, what are you most excited about now?
right now I'm writing a new book.
Of course you are. Book number
3.
Book number 3.
And because I'm really passionate about leadership, especially female leadership. Okay. And I believe that leadership laws have changed. I think there's fundamental laws of leadership that are true and consistent. But in the new age, with tech, with the world moving so quickly, with this fragmented and disjointed way of working that we're all in, I think there's new laws to be written, and I'm going to write them. So I'm working on that right now, which is so fun.
By the way, always let me know if you need anything from me because I'm your number one cheerleader always. So
you're amazing. Oh my God. Honestly, I remember, I've got to bring up that conversation we had in Santa Monica where I loved your story. I mean, your story is so good about dressing people when you're like 10. I'm like, oh my gosh. Again, I'm running a unicycle. You're dressing people. Like that just says us.
By the way, I wasn't normal either, right?
I know, but like yes, we'd be perfect friends.
But I think that's the thing. It's like, that's why parents just have to let their kids be them. Yeah. Just let your kids be them. Whoever that them is, just let them be them. Because that them gets to be these like dynamic, free-spirited, nutty adults that just kind of like do their thing. And I think that the more you stifle people that like are trying to live their passions, even at a young age without knowing they're trying to live their passions, they're just doing it. I feel like as parents and especially as like working parents, we have to look at that and be like, okay, you do you, like you do you, and I'm going to be here to support you. I think that just unconditional support. Like I love you no matter what, no matter who you are, when do you want to ride a unicycle, you want to dress people. Great. You guys go for it. You know what I mean? And just supporting them. I totally agree with you. And I think that's hard. Since I'm a twin, it's hard. And look for me, because I already told you my twin sister is very smart and athletic and everything else. Growing up, I was always comparing myself like, okay, I just couldn't compare. My mom, to your point, was like, just be you. Like, don't compare yourself. Like at a very young age, like you'll never be happy if you keep trying to compare yourself to your sister. Sure. And I was like, it was such a good lesson that I had to learn just because of being a girl twin,
that I had to learn. And then
which is so hard.
Right, so hard. So I'm like, okay, then I'm not going to try to be her because I can't do it anyway. I'm just going to be me, which is like a very different type of, and we're best friends now, which is amazing. But I think growing up, just comparison, especially on the internet right now. Can you imagine?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, actually, I can't. What our kids have to do now is unfathomable. It's like, I can't.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, me too. It's
and
so
I love
hard.
tech, but I love tech, but I wish there could be a healthier way forward for our kids.
So I'm so with you. I'm with you. And I feel like I can't imagine when I was young, I was just comparing myself to one girl next to me that lived in my house.
Right. It's exactly correct.
So that older, but yeah, now you compare yourself with literally the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Every minute of the freaking day.
Hard. But again, just be yourself. Be yourself. You're good. You're unique, right?
Kim, you guys, for anyone who does not follow Kim Perell, you must. You will be so motivated and so inspired and so taken by everything she does. I'm so lucky that you're my friend. And I can't wait to see you in person.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Thank you so much.
It's that time in the show when I answer 2 listener questions. So let's see what we have today. Do you let your hair dry naturally or do you always blow your hair out? Okay, so for less damage, I always let my hair air dry. I don't blow it from wet to dry just to preserve it as much as possible. And then in the summer months, I literally went 3 months without putting a blow dryer to my hair. I just let it air dry with a wave and just be like mermaidy because it was just easy and I wanted to like heal my hair a bit from all the styling. But if I have an event or I'm going out for dinner or like something that I want to be a little bit more dressed up for, I will run a blow dryer through it just to smooth it out and then put a wand in it, my T3 wand curler to kind of just put a little like bend in it. Okay. Second question. What do you look for when you review a resume? What stands out to you the most? It's a great question. I'll be honest with you. I look much less at a resume, not nearly as much as I look for an energy that I have with someone. And I know that sounds very not CEO-like, but for me, I'm very about someone's energy and their disposition. I also look for ambition, which you can't see on a resume. You can a little bit, like based on how many jobs they've had or, how much time they've worked in a certain place. But I would say that I definitely try to pick up on someone's energy and how excited they are. And really, to be honest, the questions they ask. Because if someone's questions are based around holidays, time off, flex hours, summer Fridays, things like that, that's a red flag for me for someone who really has no interest in working hard. This is someone who's going to be like looking at the clock. And that's not someone I'm ever interested in hiring. So, I really look for enthusiasm. I look for someone who I know will wake up and want to be a part of this world. So you can't really capture that on a resume. Okay, so don't forget to submit your questions for next week's episode. All you have to do is DM us your questions to @ClimbingInHeelsPod on Instagram, and I just might answer your question. I want to thank you so much, Kim, for coming on the podcast. I love so many of the insights that you shared, but honestly, I think it's so important to remember that if you're not getting what you want in your career or out of your career, you have to go after it in your own way. It's not just going to happen for you. Change what you're doing and pivot. I am absolutely with Kim on that. And, we share a lot of sort of ideas on our approach to being CEOs, founders, investors, and all the things, because you kind of have to work as though anything you want, anything you think about in your life, you have to go after it. It doesn't fall in your lap. Things always go wrong. You have to expect the worst. But again, like we talk about it a lot, confidence comes with experience. And every brutal moment, every low point leads to a high point, and it will work out one way or another. And it's not necessarily the way you wanted it to, but I think you just have to try it and mentally prepare for all scenarios. That has really helped me and saved me throughout my career. Okay, if you want more Climbing in Heels content, follow me on @RachelZoe and @ClimbingInHeelsPod on Instagram for more updates and upcoming guests, episodes, and all things curator. And I will see you next week. Mwah.